Primal Leadership, Realizing the Power of Emotional Intelligence, by Daniel Goleman, Richard Boyatzis, and Annie McKee. Introduction. Imagine a room filled with 200 journalists and editors. The air is thick with anxiety. They've poured their hearts into an experimental news division at the BBC, a media giant. But the experiment has failed. Management has decided to shut them down. An executive walks in to deliver the news. He's the bearer of bad tidings, and everyone knows it. But he begins by talking about how well other divisions are doing. He mentions a wonderful trip he just took to Cannes. Then, almost as an afterthought, he drops the bomb: they're all losing their jobs. The room doesn't just feel disappointment. It erupts. People are enraged, not just by the decision, but by the cold, dismissive way it was delivered. The atmosphere becomes so hostile that for a moment, it looks like he might need a security escort to leave the room safely. The very next day, a different executive comes to speak to the same staff. He takes a completely different approach. He doesn't talk about profits or losses. He speaks from his heart. He talks about the vital role of journalism in society, the calling that drew every single one of them to this field in the first place. He reminds them that no one gets into journalism to become rich. It's a profession of passion. He acknowledges their dedication, their service. And he wishes them well. When this leader finishes, something remarkable happens. The staff cheers. Two leaders, two completely different outcomes. One created hostility, the other, inspiration, even in the face of terrible news. What was the difference? It wasn't strategy. It wasn't vision, not in the traditional sense. It was something far more ancient, more fundamental. It was something primal. This is the central secret of one of the most influential books on leadership ever written, Primal Leadership, by Daniel Goleman and his colleagues Richard Boyatzis and Annie McKee. This book peels back the layers of spreadsheets and strategic plans to reveal the true engine of leadership: emotion. It argues that the first, most important job of any leader is to manage the emotional state of their people, to create what they call resonance. For years, we've been taught that emotions are noise, a distraction in the logical, rational world of business. But Goleman, a psychologist who spent years reporting on the brain for the New York Times, reveals that this is a profound misunderstanding of how we humans are wired. Today, we are going to journey into the heart of this idea. We're going to explore why a leader's mood is contagious, how the best leaders act as emotional guides, and how you can begin to master the tools of emotional intelligence. By the end of our time together, you'll understand this hidden language of leadership, the one that speaks not to the head, but to the heart, and you'll see how you can start using it, right now, in your own life, whether you're leading a company, a school club, or just yourself. This is the story of Primal Leadership. Book summary. Great leaders move us. They ignite our passion and inspire the very best in us. But how? If you ask most people, they'll talk about a leader's brilliant strategy or their powerful vision. And those things matter. But the authors of Primal Leadership argue that the reality is much simpler and much deeper. Great leadership works through the emotions. This is the core idea of primal leadership. The word primal here means two things. First, as in original, this is the oldest form of leadership. And second, as in most important, this is the foundation upon which all other leadership skills are built. Think about it. Throughout history, the leader of any human group, be it a tribal chieftain or a modern CEO, has been the person others look to for assurance and clarity. When we face uncertainty, when there's a threat, or when there's a big job to be done, we look to the leader to be our emotional guide. Their mood, their tone, their energy, it all sets the emotional standard for everyone else. The reason for this is buried deep within the design of our brains. Scientists talk about something called the open-loop limbic system. Now, that sounds complicated, but the idea is beautifully simple. Our circulatory system is a closed loop. What's happening in someone else's heart doesn't directly affect your own. But our emotional centers, our limbic system, are an open loop. This means we depend on connections with other people to manage our own emotional stability. We are wired to rescue each other emotionally. It's why a mother can soothe a crying baby, or why the comforting presence of a friend can literally lower our blood pressure. Our emotions are not contained within us. They leak out. And just as we can catch a cold from someone, we can catch their feelings. Scientists have even measured this in a lab. They'll bring two people together for a simple 15-minute conversation, and by the end, their physiological profiles, their heart rates, their breathing, start to look remarkably similar. They call this mirroring. This emotional contagion happens constantly. In any group, a kind of emotional soup is created, with everyone adding their own flavor. But it is the leader who adds the strongest seasoning. Why? Because everyone watches the boss. People take their emotional cues from the top. A leader's mood, whether it's upbeat and enthusiastic or irritable and anxious, ripples outward, affecting everyone in the organization. When a leader drives emotions in a positive direction, they create what the authors call resonance. A resonant leader is in tune with the feelings of their people. They create a reservoir of positivity that frees the best in everyone. Think of that second BBC executive. He didn't deny the bad news, but he attuned to the staff's passion for their work and left them feeling understood and even inspired. That is resonance. On the other hand, when a leader drives emotions negatively, they create dissonance. A dissonant leader is out of tune. They are oblivious or indifferent to how others are feeling. The first BBC executive, talking about his trip to Cannes while firing his staff, was a perfect example. He spawned hostility and undermined the emotional foundations that let people shine. So, the primal job of leadership is emotional. And the key to mastering this job lies in what Daniel Goleman is most famous for: emotional intelligence, or A. Emotional intelligence isn't about being nice. It's about being intelligent about emotions. The authors break it down into 4 core domains, and they build on each other like a pyramid. The foundation, the very bedrock of A, is self-awareness. This is having a deep understanding of your own emotions. It's knowing your strengths, your limitations, your values, and your motives. A self-aware leader recognizes how their feelings affect them and their job performance. Instead of letting anger build into an outburst, they spot it early and figure out what's causing it. This self-awareness is also the source of intuition, or what we often call a gut feeling. The book explains that gut feelings aren't magic, they are the brain's way of drawing on a lifetime of experience, of all the lessons we've learned without even realizing it. Our emotional centers send a signal. This feels right. That is a form of data, just as valuable as any spreadsheet. A leader who is out of touch with their own feelings will be tuned out from this deep well of wisdom. Building on that foundation is the second domain, self-management. Once you're aware of your emotions, you can begin to manage them. This is what frees us from being prisoners of our feelings. A leader with strong self-management can stay calm under pressure, control their impulses, and channel even difficult emotions in a useful way. Because emotions are so contagious, a leader's first job is emotional hygiene, getting their own feelings in hand. You cannot effectively manage emotions in anyone else without first handling your own. This self-mastery allows a leader to be a source of calm and confidence, creating an environment of trust and fairness. The third domain is social awareness. This is where we turn our awareness outward. The key skill here is empathy. Empathy doesn't mean adopting other people's emotions as your own or trying to please everyone. That would be a nightmare. Rather, It means thoughtfully considering employees' feelings and then making intelligent decisions that factor those feelings into your response. It's about listening, understanding other perspectives, and sensing the unspoken emotions in a room. A leader who lacks empathy will always be off-key, saying and doing things that create dissonance without even realizing why. Finally, at the peak of the pyramid, we have relationship management. This is where the first three domains come together. It's the visible part of leadership: persuasion, conflict management, collaboration, and inspiration. Managing relationships well means handling other people's emotions skillfully. This is where a leader uses their awareness of their own feelings, their ability to manage them, and their empathy for others to move people in the right direction. It's friendliness with a purpose. A leader strong in relationship management can articulate a compelling vision that resonates with people's shared values, build rapport, and find common ground. These four domains are the building blocks. But how do they look in action? The authors identified 6 distinct approaches to leadership, 6 different styles. They imagine these styles as the set of clubs in a professional golfer's bag. The best leaders don't just use one club for every shot. They sense the challenge ahead and instinctively pull out the right tool for the job. 4 of these styles create resonance and boost performance. First is the visionary style. This is perhaps the most effective style overall. A visionary leader moves people toward a shared dream. They articulate where the group is going, but not necessarily how it will get there. This gives people clarity and a sense of purpose, but also the freedom to innovate and take risks. They frame the work in terms of a grander vision, making even mundane tasks feel meaningful. This style is built on the A competencies of inspiration, self-confidence, and empathy. The leader must genuinely believe in the vision and be able to attune it to the shared values of their people. This style is especially powerful when a business is adrift or needs a fresh start. Next is the coaching style. This is the art of the one-on-one. A coaching leader connects what a person wants with the organization's goals. They have deep conversations that go beyond short-term tasks and explore a person's life, their dreams, and their career hopes. This is the style leaders use least often saying they don't have time, but by ignoring it, they miss a powerful tool for building loyalty and developing talent. A good coach helps people identify their strengths and weaknesses and links their daily work to their long-term aspirations. The message is, I believe in you, I'm investing in you, and I expect your best efforts. This style relies heavily on the competencies of developing others, empathy, and emotional self-awareness. Third is the affiliative style. This leader builds harmony by connecting people to each other. Their motto is people come first. Think of Joe Torre, the legendary manager of the New York Yankees. He was known for tending to the psyches of his players, especially during times of personal struggle. After winning the 1999 World Series, he sought out a player whose father had just died, praising him as a warrior. This style is about creating emotional bonds and building loyalty. It's a fantastic resonance builder, perfect for healing rifts in a team, motivating people during stressful times, or repairing broken trust. It's built on empathy, building bonds, and conflict management. The fourth resonance style is the democratic leader. This leader builds commitment through participation, valuing people's input. Their classic phrase is, "What do you think?" The story of Sister Mary is a perfect illustration. When ordered to shut down a failing Catholic school, she didn't just lock the doors. She called meetings with teachers, staff, and parents. She asked for their ideas and listened. In the end, the consensus was the same: the school had to close. But because the decision was reached collectively, there was no backlash. People mourned, but they understood. This style is ideal when a leader is uncertain about the best direction and needs ideas from capable employees. It's built on collaboration, team leadership, and communication. Those 4 styles, visionary, coaching, affiliative, and democratic, are the resonance builders. They create a positive emotional climate and drive performance. But there are two other styles in the golfer's bag. These are powerful, but they can easily create dissonance if used poorly or too often. They should be applied with caution. The first is the pace-setting style. The pace-setting leader expects excellence and exemplifies it. Their motto is, "Do as I do, now." They hold high standards, are obsessive about doing things better and faster, and ask the same of everyone. This can work extremely well with a team that is already highly motivated and competent, a team of star salespeople or expert scientists, for example. But when used excessively, it can feel relentless. The pacesetter can be so focused on goals that they appear not to care about the people doing the work. They often expect people to just know what to do, leaving followers feeling overwhelmed and untrusted. Morale plummets. Sam, the brilliant biochemist who became a star researcher, was a natural pacesetter. It worked when he led a small team of equally driven scientists. But when he was promoted to head the entire RAND division, his style failed. He became a micromanager, obsessed with details, and unable to trust his subordinates. The pace-setting style can get short-term results, but it often burns people out. Finally, there is the commanding style. This is the classic military style. The motto is "Do what I tell you." This leader demands immediate compliance, doesn't bother with explanations, and relies on threats to motivate. Of all the styles, this is the least effective in most situations. It erodes morale, crushes innovation, and makes people feel disrespected. It's a recipe for dissonance. However, it does have its place. In a genuine crisis, a fire, a hostile takeover, or during an urgent turnaround, a leader who can take firm control can be invaluable. It can also be useful with a problem employee after everything else has failed. But if this is the only tool a leader uses, they will leave a trail of destruction. This brings up an interesting question: what the authors call the SOB paradox. We all know of a rude, hard-hitting, seemingly dissonant leader who appears to get great business results. If emotional intelligence is so important, how do we explain them? The authors offer a few thoughts. First, is that person truly the one leading? A CEO of a massive conglomerate might be a pacesetter, but it's the division heads beneath him, using more resonant styles, who are actually leading the people and driving results. Second, some success is an illusion. A leader might pump up short-term profits through drastic cuts that damage the company's long-term health, driving away top talent. And finally, no leader is perfect. A leader might have a glaring weakness, like a lack of empathy, but have so many counterbalancing strengths in other areas of emotional intelligence that they are still effective overall. But the data is clear: on the whole, leaders who rely on dissonant styles drive away talent and ultimately underperform. The most effective leaders don't just master one or two of these styles. They have a flexible repertoire of 4 or more, especially the resonant ones, and they can switch between them fluidly, as the situation demands. But how does a leader develop this flexibility? How does a pace-setter like Jack, the marketing executive who was a self-described control freak, learn to become a coach? This is where the book moves from the what to the how. The journey begins with a major obstacle, especially for those at the top: the CEO disease. This is the information vacuum that forms around leaders when people withhold important, and usually unpleasant, information. No one wants to be the messenger who gets shot. The higher you climb, the less honest feedback you receive about your own performance. This is a paradox, because the higher you are, the more you need that feedback. This lack of feedback feeds a natural human tendency. We tend to overestimate our own abilities. The very poorest performers are often the ones who exaggerate their skills the most. So, a leader can be completely out of touch with the reality of how they are perceived, like Bill, the HR manager who saw himself as the go-to guy while his colleagues secretly avoided him. Many people believe that, by a certain age, our leadership style is fixed. We are who we are. But the authors argue passionately that this is not true. Old leaders can learn new tricks. Emotional intelligence is not an innate talent, it is a learned ability. The problem with most leadership training is that it targets the wrong part of the brain. The neocortex, our thinking brain, learns concepts quickly. It can learn how to use a computer program from a manual. But leadership skills are not just concepts, they are habits, rooted deep in our emotional brain, the limbic system. And the limbic brain is a much slower learner. To change a habit, you have to overwrite years of repeated neural pathways. This requires a different approach. It requires what the authors call self-directed learning. This is a process built around 5 discoveries. The first discovery is your ideal self. This is the first and most powerful step. Who do you want to be? This isn't about the person you think you ought to be, based on the expectations of your parents or your boss. This is about connecting with your own dreams, your own values, your own vision for your life. This ideal self is the fuel for change. It's what provides the passion and hope needed to do the hard work of breaking old habits. Without a compelling vision of the person you want to become, any effort to change will eventually fizzle out. The second discovery is your real self. This is like looking in an honest mirror. Who are you right now? How do others really see you? This is where you have to fight against the CEO disease and actively seek out candid feedback, especially from those who see you every day. A 360-degree evaluation, where you get confidential feedback from your boss, your peers, and your subordinates, is an incredibly powerful tool for this. This process helps you identify your strengths, where your real self matches your ideal self, and your gaps, where they don't. The third discovery is creating your learning agenda. This is your roadmap for change. A good learning plan isn't about fixing your weaknesses. It's about building on your strengths to help you close your gaps. It should be made of concrete, manageable steps that fit into your real life. And it must be your plan, driven by your ideal self, not goals that someone else has imposed on you. Juan Tribino, the marketing executive, wanted to develop his empathy and coaching skills. His learning plan wasn't just about work. He decided to coach his daughter's soccer team and volunteer at a crisis center. This gave him more opportunities to practice in different settings. The fourth discovery is experimenting and practicing new behaviors until they become automatic. This is the hard work. Changing a deeply ingrained habit feels unnatural at first. You have to consciously practice a better way, over and over again. This is where mental rehearsal can be incredibly powerful. By vividly imagining yourself handling a situation in a new way, like Jack, the pace setter, rehearsing how he would listen patiently instead of jumping in, you begin to fire the new neural pathways in your brain before you even act. You practice until the new habit becomes the brain's default option. Finally, the fifth discovery is the power of relationships. You cannot do this alone. Change happens in the context of our relationships. We need others to help us see our real self, to give us feedback, to support us when we struggle, and to provide a safe space to experiment with new behaviors. This might be a trusted mentor, an executive coach, or a peer group of people on the same journey. These supportive relationships make sustainable change possible. This 5-step process can transform an individual leader. But to transform an organization, you need more. You need to create a critical mass of resonant leaders. This means moving beyond individual development and looking at the emotional reality of teams and the entire organization. The authors explain that teams, just like individuals, have an emotional intelligence. A team can be self-aware, sensing its own moods. It can be self-managing, establishing positive norms for handling conflict. It can be empathetic, building good relationships with other groups in the organization. The leader's job is to foster this group A, to monitor the emotional tone, and to help the team confront its reality and move toward its ideal. Ultimately, building an emotionally intelligent organization means weaving these principles into the very fabric of the company. It means hiring and promoting people based on competencies. It means creating a culture that values transparency, integrity, and empathy. And it means having leaders at the top who not only support this but embody it. In a world of constant, accelerating change, the authors conclude that primal leadership is more crucial than ever. Strategies and business models will become obsolete. But the ability to manage emotions, your own and others' to stay flexible under pressure, to inspire people around a shared purpose, and to create the human synergy of a group in harmony. That is the timeless art of leadership. It's the art of creating resonance. Commentary. What a journey! When you first encounter the ideas in primal leadership, it feels like someone has turned on a light in a room you didn't even know was dark. We spend so much time focusing on the what of leadership, the strategies, the numbers, the goals, that we completely miss the how. And the how, as Goleman and his colleagues so brilliantly show us, is almost entirely emotional. The most powerful lesson for me, and I believe for anyone who reads this book, is the concept of resonance. It's such a simple yet profound idea, that a leader's fundamental job is to prime good feeling in those they lead. It reframes leadership from an act of command to an act of connection. It reminds us that at the end of the day, organizations are just collections of human beings, and we are emotional creatures. What I find so beautiful about this book is how it takes this idea, which could feel soft or vague, and grounds it in both hard science and practical application. The discussion of the open-loop limbic system isn't just an interesting fact, it's the scientific explanation for why a leader's mood is so powerful. It's the why behind what we've all experienced when we've worked for an inspiring boss who lifts everyone up, or a toxic one who drains the life out of a room. And for someone your age, on the cusp of so many new experiences, this framework is invaluable. You may not be a CEO, but you are already a leader in some capacity. You lead when you're the captain of a sports team. You lead when you're organizing a group project for school. You lead when you're trying to influence your friends to make a good choice. In every one of those situations, the principles of primal leadership apply. Are you creating resonance or dissonance? Are you aware of your own emotional state? Are you empathetic to what others are feeling? The book challenges the old, stoic image of the leader as an unfeeling, rational machine. It gives us permission to be human. It tells us that our feelings, our intuition, our ability to connect with others, these are not weaknesses to be suppressed, but strengths to be cultivated. So, how can you start applying these powerful lessons today? You don't have to wait until you have a formal title. Here are 3 simple practices you can begin right now. First, practice emotional self-awareness. Just start paying attention. Throughout your day, check in with yourself. What are you feeling right now? Stressed? Excited? Frustrated? Don't judge it, just name it. Then ask a simple question: why? Getting into this habit of noticing and understanding your own emotional landscape is the first step on the path to emotional intelligence. Second, practice active empathy. The next time you're in a conversation with someone, make it your primary goal not to be understood, but to understand. Listen not just to their words, but to the feeling behind them. Watch their body language. Ask questions that show you're trying to see the world from their perspective, like, how did that feel for you? This single shift can transform the quality of your relationships. And third, become an observer of emotional climates. When you walk into a classroom, a family dinner, or a meeting for a club, take a moment to sense the emotional temperature. Is the mood light and energetic, or is it tense and heavy? Who seems to be setting that tone? By becoming aware of the emotional currents around you, you'll start to see the powerful, invisible forces of resonance and dissonance at play everywhere. Leadership, in the end, is not about a position. It's about impact. It's about the ability to move people, to inspire them, and to bring out their very best. It's the most human of all endeavors. And as Primal Leadership so masterfully teaches us, it all begins with the heart. That was a summary of Primal Leadership by Daniel Goleman, Richard Boyatzis, and Annie McKee. We've explored the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It can show you the landmarks, but it can't give you the experience of walking the streets, smelling the food, and hearing the music. The real magic of this book happens when you read it for yourself. It's in the quiet moments when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with your own life in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've discussed today has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see leadership and the way you see yourself. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.